Hello and welcome to Sierra Make. Today we are making a pleated skirt and I'm going to provide you with a few different variations you can do to the skirt along the way in hopes that you can alter this design to fit whatever cosplay you're doing currently. A few things I have to warn you about before we get started is first, I ended up not having enough fabric to make the full width of the skirt. You usually want your waist circumference times 3 to be the width of your fabric, but I had just a little bit less than that, so I had to make a few tweaks to the pleats as I was sewing this, but it wasn't a huge deal. You'll see it turned out perfectly fine. In fact, tons of commercial companies will do this to I don't know, save fabric or whatever. So if you also end up not having enough fabric, it's totally fine if you have just a little bit less of the width that you need. The second thing I gotta warn you about is I sew some things out of order, and that's because I kept changing up the design as I was making it. As you'll see in the end, it turned out totally fine, so if you sew things out of order, I mean, whatever. But I do recommend watching the whole thing through before you decide what kind of style you're going for. And my last warning is be very careful when ironing. I'm not the best at ironing, and it kind of shows because this is a pleated skirt. You'll see that some of my creases are wonky, and I probably need to go back and fix quite a few of them, and it's all about those nice creases in the skirt that really brings out the look. So that is my warning to you. Be really careful when you're ironing this skirt because that's what's going to show and really give that pleated skirt look, obviously. Anyways, enough of the warnings. Let's jump into the tutorial.
Here is the fabric that I used. It is a black, stretchy, thick polyester, and because it's so thick, I'm not going to put a liner in this skirt, but I will let you know when you can do that in this process. So the first thing you want to do is cut your fabric. So there's two measurements that you'll need. You need the measurement of your waist and the measurement of the length that you want the skirt to be. Then, like I said in the intro, you're going to take that waist measurement and multiply that by 3 for the pleats. Also, like I said, I ended up not having enough fabric. I had about 2.5 times the amount of my waist, but I'll let you know how I fixed that during the pleat section of this tutorial. Moving on, once the pieces are all cut out, you will have a large rectangle, which is that width that we found and the length of the skirt that we want, and the waistband piece, which is the width of the waist and 3 to 4 inches in length. With that large rectangle, we are going to hem one side of it before doing the pleats. This is also the opportunity to put on any of those stripes that you see on the bottoms of some skirts, or really any continuous design you want around the bottom of the skirt. Now with the hem out of the way, it's time to make the pleats. To do this, we're going to use a nifty trick that I saw off TikTok, and we're going to grab a fork and split it into the fabric and twist just like you're twisting pasta to get a beautiful even pleat. Since this fork is an inch wide, each of my pleats that I make using it will also be an inch. But hey, what if I want wider pleats? Well, I have a wider fork for that. And for those with fabric that is shorter than 3 times the waist like me, the only difference is when you are making these pleats, make them further apart from each other. It might take a little trial and error, but at the end of the day, you just want it to be the length of your waist once it's all pleated. Next, you're going to iron down your pleats. Be extra careful here. Take good care because the pleats is the most important part. I once had someone ask, why do you put a handkerchief above your iron? And that is the reason why. Because if you don't, you might accidentally end up burning your fabric and it looks terrible. You can see I'm kind of spreading out the bottom of the skirt as I iron it down because I want a kind of flared look to it. Next, we're going to attach one side of our waistband to the inside of our skirt, like you see here. I used a zigzag stitch because I'm afraid of commitment, and I wasn't sure if it'd still be stretchy if I used a straight stitch. And then here's one of the things out of order. I decided to stitch down those pleats 3.5 inches. I could have done this before I put on the waistband, but I decided to do it after. It doesn't matter. I just decided I wanted more of a tennis skirt tailored look rather than a flared, loose pleated skirt. If you'll notice here, I have a little card that is exactly 3.5 inches, and so I'm using that to measure out how long I'm making these stitches, and I'm only top stitching the pleat on the front side of the fabric. Here's what that looks like all stitched up. You see it's very nice and clean. It's looking pretty good now. I also stuck my little name tag in the inside of the waistband, and now it's time to close it up. So I was going to stick a zipper on this skirt, like most of them have, but I realized the fabric I used was so stretchy that I'd actually be able to just stretch it over my hips onto my waist. So instead of adding a zipper, I'm just going to sew the two ends of my skirt together and then close out the waistband. Now we just flip that inside out and pay attention to the stitching here. The waistband is stitched on the other side that the skirt was stitched on. Now we'll just roll down that waistband, tucking in the raw edge and pinning that close, and we will top stitch above the top of that waistband. And there we go, there is our final skirt. You can see my ironing needs a little bit of work, but let's try it on anyways. What do you guys think? I mean, it's really clear that I have to go back and fix those pleats with the iron because they're a little frazzled and that burn mark doesn't look super cute. But other than that, I think it looks super cute and I love how the top of it turned out, definitely. I kind of made this without a cosplay in mind, so please, please, please let me know in the comments down below what character I should cosplay using this skirt. Anyways, I hope this skirt tutorial was helpful and I'll see you next Friday. Thank you for watching.
Ooh.